I'm going on a trip and I'm gonna take my bike with me. So today we're gonna figure out how to put a bike like this or a bike like any of these into a small case like this. Let's find out. First step, take the pedals off. Don't forget, if you're trying to take the pedals off and you're trying to figure out which way to turn it, you turn it up and over towards the back of the bike, and that's what takes the pedals off. If you want to put the pedals back on, up and over towards the front of the bike, and that's how you put the pedals back on. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey doesn't work when you have right side of the bike, left side of the bike. I use the big wrench first to kind of loosen it when it's really tight, so you have the extra leverage, but then once it's loosened, you have this big leverage, so it's hard to, turn it really quickly because it hits the ground. So then I switch to the smaller one. And that way the smaller one, you can fit it on. And then it just spins in place. All right, pedals are off. Next, saddles, bars. Before you take them off, maybe get some paint, or not paint, but like a little tape or something. And you can just put it right next to where the clamp meets so that you know where to set it for next time. That's probably more important with the saddle height. Since the bars usually have markings already, but yeah, mark it up. So one little tip, make sure you use the right size tool for the right size head. If you use a tool that's like one size a little too small, so you can still kind of do it, but it's not really the right size, you're gonna strip the notches in the head of the bolts, and strip bolts are not fun, so make sure you find the right size. Always remember, put the bolt back in. And the reason why I do that is so you don't lose any. Because you don't want to end up show up to the race and yeah, no bolts. All right, now if the bike that you have has couplers, meaning the frame comes apart, this is when you would actually loosen them. I wouldn't take them off completely because it's easier to take the derailleur and things off with it still together, but you at least want to loosen it. And the reason why you do it now is so that because the wheels are attached, you can have the leverage against the ground, right? If you take the wheels off and then you start wailing on the couplers, then you're driving the carbon fork into the concrete, or the chain rings. You can potentially drive those into the concrete, which we don't want. So loosen the couplers first. Let's see how easy it is. There you go. So this bike hasn't been taken apart in a while. And a lot of times the bottom coupler is a little thicker than the top one. That's why we have two different sizes. There we go. Make sure when you push on it, you don't gouge your palm on the chain ring, because that could be quite painful. There we go. You loosen it enough, and then you could potentially even hand crank it. But again, not loosened completely. This is also, by the way, when you finish the couplers, a lot of these coupled bikes have brake cables that come apart, and this is when you would disconnect it. And on this bike, the brake cable coupler is right here. And so we would just spin this little thingamajig. One thing to be careful of, make sure this brake cable doesn't get stuck in the wrench, because then when you start wailing on it, you might cut your brake cable, and that's not going to be fun. So make sure it's kind of out to the side, and then you can grab and push down, and then loosen, and then hand loosen. We loosened the couplers, and so now we're gonna deal with this back area, and so we're gonna take the back wheel off before we take the derailleur off. And so we're gonna skewer, open, loosen a little bit, push down. I'm gonna grab that. What is it stuck on? Let's see. There we go. And then just pull the chain off of it. Boop. There we go. And there's your wheel. Put that to the side. In most cases, we would take the derailleur off just because it's this kind of vulnerable thing. sticking out, right? And the last thing we want is to bend the little derailleur hanger, so we're gonna pull this derailleur off. Moving the bars to the right side, because this front one, instead of a quick release skewer like the back wheel, it's a through axle, which means you have to untighten it. Don't forget, you can definitely over tighten. Well, you can over tighten anything technically, but you can definitely over tighten a through axle, which you don't want, because then you'll strip the threads on the opposite side of the fork, which we do not want. And so we're just gonna loosen this up. Keep it popping, keep it popping. Eventually grab hold, pull out, get this out the way, and then pop this loose. There we go. Put that over there. And then again, similar to all the threads, you pop this back in. 2 reasons. 1, you don't want to forget this. And then 2, it actually protects the fork. So if you have some pressure, right, like pushing in on either side, at least this kind of holds some structural integrity. So as I mentioned, we're going to pop the derailleur off because it's, you know, kind of exposed, and we want to protect that, especially, well, specifically the hanger, because once we bend that, you're kind of screwed. So we're going to pop this off. It's actually quite on pretty good. We're gonna basically keep the derailleur kind of in the frame. We don't need to break the chain at all, but at least this will kind of shrink that profile down. All right, and then now, frame's pretty much apart. We're gonna take the actual frame. I misspoke. The bike's pretty much apart. Now we're gonna take the frame apart. Let's get the case ready. All right, so today we're actually using Bike Box Allen, and it's a single bike case that could fit, you know, just like a regular road bike. But because the tandem frame comes apart, that's why we can use this. So I actually use this case to fly most of the time with my tandems, because all my tandems come apart. Because dealing with a 30-foot long massive tandem case, really annoying. So we're gonna flip it on its side, pop it open, and then I'll show you how to pack it. All right, so we took the frame apart, right? 3 pieces. We kind of accordion, like compressed the pieces in the back. We put the back one first, and you kind of want this rear triangle firmly into this corner. I'm gonna pull it closer soon, and again, it has like these little straps in the case, right? I mean, your case might be different, but this case has like a bunch of these Velcro straps that you can use to secure the frame down, because, you know, it might seem solid, but once TSA and whatever starts throwing it around, you don't want it like flying places. So the rear triangle firmly in that corner, and then the fork, the front fork, you want it in kind of this corner. And we're gonna put towels and padding around it in a second, you'll see. But so basically like that, and then the handlebars. Usually, I mean, you'll kind of figure out where it fits, but usually kind of in this top corner over here, you just put it down and you kind of tuck the levers down in here. Don't forget, if you have hydraulic disc brakes, you want to put little cardboard or something into the brake pads, so that if you do actuate the brake, you know, like in packing, the brakes won't kind of seal together. And that's about it. Having, like, for example, this piece stick up a little bit, that's okay. I mean, you kind of don't have a choice. If you have a carbon frame bike, make sure that your chain rings don't gouge your own frame. Again, we're gonna wrap some towels around it and stuff, but this is kind of mainly it. And then you have a whole bunch of extra space to pack your wetsuit and all other things. We're gonna put the wheels in right now, so check in a second. I forgot to mention, we're gonna put the wheels in. Take a little air out, just so that, you know, you don't have so much expansion, especially up in the airplane. So pop a little air out. You still want to you don't want to make it totally flat, because this soft tire actually protects the rim, you know, from getting kind of bumped up against and stuff. But definitely take a little bit of the air out. When you travel, you sometimes would want to take the rotors off of the disc brakes. The rotors are kind of fragile, and if they get bent a tiny bit, you're going to be hearing that the whole ride. For this one, it should be good. We're gonna check it out. We're gonna check it out. I forgot to mention, if you do have quick release skewer wheel, which for this bike, the back one is, you do want to take that off and make sure you don't forget that. All right, I changed my mind. We're taking the rotors off. That's all you need. One, you got to figure out what kind of rotors you have. Center lock, in which case, or this is center lock. So you just need a center lock wrench. And then obviously try not to get all the grease on the edges of the rotor, right? Because you don't want grease on your rotors. And then we're gonna pop the rotors off and store them safely. When you pull the rotor off, make sure you remember which side, so this side or that side, because it will go on both ways. And you won't realize until you put the whole bike together and say the rotor's on backwards and you're trying to get the wheel on and it keeps hitting the brake and it's just not going on and you're gonna be driving yourself crazy. So obviously on this case, if you remember the side with the little rim sticking out versus right this side's flat. So the side with the rim is the side that you want to put in towards the wheel. And this is obviously the front wheel because it has no cassette on the other side. All right, we have a back wheel here. See cassette on the other side, back wheel, same deal. The lip on the rotor goes in towards the wheel. So we're going around, we're securing the wheels to the lid with the little Velcro straps. One thing you want to make sure is a lot of cases, this one specifically is one of them. It has the little metal pole, what I'll show you in a second, where you kind of, brace from the middle and it mates with this whole indentation in the lid. And so if the wheel is turned so that the spokes are covering it, you're gonna have to undo all the Velcro and return it, a couple degrees so that this little indentation is free. So make sure that's free before you secure the wheels onto the lid. All right, next we're gonna do some padding. You got some towels that you don't need and you don't mind getting real greasy. Two areas we're gonna pad. One is around this rear triangle and it's gonna encompass kind of this, this back skewer area. And then plus we're gonna wrap around that chain ring just to kind of protect everything else mostly. We're gonna wrap around this, just kind of tuck it in, tuck this around the ring itself. Remember, we still have not secured the frame down just to give, allow us to kind of tuck this stuff around. And then this front one, we're gonna do encompassing this carbon fork because you want to protect the carbon. If this frame was all carbon, then we would do a lot more padding around the frame itself. But for now, we're just gonna tuck it in around this front fork. You want to wrap around the little brake caliper and then just tuck it in right there. And there we go. Actually, and we're gonna do one more around, since it's a tandem bike, we're gonna do it around this front one so that it can wrap around the, technically not a chain ring, but the timing chain ring. All right, that's it. Tuck it in like a little baby. These disc rotors should technically have their own little towel, but for now, until I go get one, we're just gonna wrap it in this little thing. This tool should not be loose, and we're just gonna tuck it kind of right protectively in that little triangle area, because the last thing we want is for the rotors to get bent. All right, now we're gonna tuck in the saddle, the seat post, and the other pieces that we took off the bike earlier. And basically just wanna find little open areas just to put them. And the one thing you wanna make sure of, let's see, I'm gonna put this, let's say here, you wanna make sure that there's no piece that's like sticking really far up, because you want to remember that the wheels are going to come down on top of it, and the last thing you want is for like a sharp piece or something to poke one of the wheel spokes. So make sure kind of everything is level, cover it up a little bit, that way you're not going to put any pressure on your wheels. And then we're going to get all the little Velcro straps and then secure basically everything down so that the minimal moving as possible. All right, we'll put the little metal supporter thing in the middle that I was talking about, which is why it's important to make sure that the wheel spokes are lined up. We're gonna put this little piece of foam on top just to seal everything nicely in. Yep, that's good. All right, and then we're gonna lower the lid, and we're gonna see if we did a good job. Ooh, see, this is also a good time where you can kind of feel around, see what's sticking up. I'm noticing this is sticking up, so I might peel it back for a sec and troubleshoot. So like, you notice the bars are kind of popped up, and so we want to make sure that they're as low as possible. And so to do that, we might go like that. That feels. There we go. That's low. All right. Pop this back on top, and let's see. You want to make sure that you want to stick your hand inside. Make sure this thing finds its way into the little mating cavity at the top, and not into a wheel spoke. All right. Put this whole case together, and that is a packed bike.